quite traumatic life. And yet, despite this traumatic life, she has made it her life's work to help other people with PTSD and with trauma to overcome their trauma by helping them to understand that there's a way forward and that we can change our life. And she is going to help you today by telling you how you can do that. Janine.
Thank you. That was a great intro. What if you had to wake up and relive the same day over and over again? Like in the movie Groundhog Day. Now in the movie Groundhog Day, Bill Murray plays weatherman Phil Collins, who wakes up in a time loop, living the same day, seeing the same people, having the same experiences over and over again. Now this goes on for about a decade. And angry Phil decides nothing's gonna change. So there's really gonna be no long-term consequences for his actions. So he decides to start seducing women. He steals money. He even goes on drunken car chases with the police. He even tries to manipulate and seduce his beautiful news producer, Rita, played by Andy McDowell. Now, of course, this doesn't work because, as we know with matters of the heart, it cannot be manipulated. He commits suicide multiple times trying to break this cycle. Eventually, he builds a genuine friendship with Rita. And she gives him an interesting perspective. What if you saw these time loops as blessings instead of a curse? This gave him a goal for his trapped life. And he became a benefactor to others. He now spent his days helping others. And what this did was it opened his heart. He eventually fell in love with Rita. He went to bed that night, woke up, and the time loop had stopped. This reminds me of my experiences of developing and living with post-traumatic stress disorder. I too contemplated suicide. And the only thing that prevented me from doing so were my daughters. This cycle, unfortunately, was going to repeat one more time. But I was determined this would not reach my future grandchildren, whom I have 5 of. Amanda Lindhout, a Canadian journalist, was kidnapped by Islamist insurgents in Somalia. She was tortured for 460 days. She was beaten, she was starved, she was sexually brutalized. After about a year of this, she decided too that she should kill herself. And as she held that rusty blade in her hand, a little bird flew in, landed on the dirty floor, looked up at her, and then flew away. In that moment, she believed that she would get out. And so what she did was she harnessed the power of her mind. She created The House in the Sky, which is also the title of her book. And in The House in the Sky, she was able to give herself everything that she needed. She had all of the food that she could ever want while she was starving. All of her friends and family were there to give her the love and nurturing while she was being beaten. She created a safe space for herself while she was being sexually brutalized. Like Amanda, I too discovered how to go to safe spaces in my mind while I too was experiencing many forms of abuse that lasted decades. Now, Amanda was interviewed, and she said, you know, it'd be really easy to go to a place of resentment and bitterness, and why me? But what she discovered, and before I share this with you, I want you to know this does not let the abusers off the hook. But But she discovered she needed to forgive her captors. Well, what this did was it freed her heart from the bitterness, from the resentment, from the why me. And it gave her the vision to make Somalia a better place. She became a benefactor to others. She never questioned whether or not this was the right thing to do. I mean, what else could she do after an experience like that? I experienced physical, mental, emotional, psychological, and sexual abuse from a very young age that lasted decades. I was 15 years old, straight A student, destined for medical school. And I questioned, well, where are the classes that are going to help me deal with what's going on at home? Well, there were no classes. So I decided I'm going to start a new life. I'm going to run away from home. So I did. I hitchhiked over 400 miles from Northern California to Southern California. And I learned how to live homeless and on the streets. I met some pretty cool people who were Vietnam vets. Naturally, we related with our post-traumatic stress disorder. And then I met a man who was 17 years my senior. And he said, I love you. That's all I ever wanted, was to be loved. I had no idea that I was about to walk into another decade-long cycle of abuse. I was pregnant at 15. I lost that pregnancy. Got pregnant again at 16. I gave birth to her. I got married at 17. And I truly believed that marriage had this magical quality where you live happily ever after. I assure you that's not the case. By the time I was 20, I had 2 beautiful daughters. I was the financial provider in that relationship, and I came home one day and I observed my children's behavior. It was quite alarming and all too familiar. History had repeated itself. How did this happen? I ran away from home, hoping to start a new life, well, as best a 15-year-old girl could do. And instead, I ended up right back in a similar situation, and now the same thing has happened to my daughters. I'll be damned if that's going to happen to my grandkids, I thought. You see, the only experiences I had up to this point were abuse and dysfunction. So that's what was familiar to me. That's what also was attracted to me. So here's what I discovered. I questioned, if this happened to me and this happened to my children, what happened to my parents? What happened to my parents' parents? What happened to my husband's parents? And so on. The same cycle, over and over again. So I realized I need some new experiences. So I started bringing all of the traumatized parts of myself to that safe space, that safe inner home, my version of the house in the sky. And I started giving them everything that I needed, that I didn't get, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel loved, to feel accepted. I also made myself a promise. I am never leaving those parts of me in a trauma-triggered time loop experience again. And I took full responsibility for all those parts. Now what happened was an alchemy between my heart and my mind. I could start seeing the blessing beyond the curse. And from that moment forward, that was my vision, that I would dedicate the rest of my life alchemizing negative life experiences, sharing that wisdom with others, as well as showing people how to do that. So how did Phil from Groundhog Day, Amanda Lindhout, the Canadian journalist, and myself, how did we do it? Well, we explored something beyond that experience. We had a desire for something different. We were not satisfied with the current conditions. We discovered our courage for change and commitment to ourselves. We eventually found the abundance Beyond Trauma, which is also the name of my book. We discovered the abundance beyond the negative experiences. Phil explored different ways of behaving, and through that process, it opened up his heart and he came out of the time loop. Amanda discovered the power of her mind. You know that every time she went to the house in the sky, she was healing herself? I discovered my courage and my determination that this stops with my children. My daughters, before they had their children, they also were committed to breaking this cycle. They both have better partners than I had. And as a family, they are committed to my 5 grandchildren, Xavier, Xiomara, Everly, Layla, and Remy, to provide a better life than we had. So I'd like to share with you the 5 steps that have helped me, many others, and I believe it will help you too. Step 1, explore. What happened to you? What negative experiences have you had? Are they swirling around in your thoughts over and over again? Are they keeping your heart closed and guarded in an attempt to feel safe? Are they preventing you from living the life that you desire and deserve? Explore is all about the questioning that there must be something beyond this experience. It is not an acceptance of, well, this is my life, day in, day out, over and over again. Step 2, discover. How have these experiences affected your life? Are you noticing cycles and patterns? Are you stuck in your own trauma, trigger, time loop experience? My friends, this is where you discover your courage and you come out of those time loops. Step 3, heal. Now this one I'd like us to do together. So I'm going to have you close your eyes. Take a nice big deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I want you to go to that safe space. Maybe it's the house in the sky. Maybe it's a forest. Maybe it's a safe inner home within. Go there now. And now I'd like you to bring all of the parts of you that have had negative experiences or trauma. I'd like you to bring them to that safe space. Now remember, this is your domain. This is your space. You control what happens here. That is the power of your mind. Now you know what you didn't get in those experiences. So now it's time to give those parts of yourself everything that you didn't get. So what are the things that we need? To feel seen, to feel heard, to feel loved, and to feel accepted. See if you can give those to all those parts of yourself now. Now, most importantly, make those promises to those parts of yourselves that you are not going to leave them stuck in that trauma trigger time loop experience, that you are going to take full responsibility for them, give them everything that they need when they need it. What naturally begins to happen is step 4, integration, where you and the parts of you that you've just healed naturally merge and become one. Well, now there's more of you available, which leads me to step 5, relate. You naturally will need time to relate with yourself, get to know yourself, go out on a date. I mean, isn't that what we do when we want to get to know someone? Now, naturally, the people around you, it may take an adjustment for them to get to know this new version of you, and that will have its own journey. But my friends, healthy relationships begin with you. When you are healthy and balanced, you naturally will attract and be attracted to healthier and balanced. Healthier and balanced relationships go out and create healthier communities. Those communities go out into the world, creating a healthier world. You don't have to stay in that Groundhog Day. My name is Janine Rashidi, and my mission is to revolutionize how we relate harmoniously between the heart and mind after the disconnect from trauma and negative life experiences.
Wow, what a story, huh? What a story. And again, resilience and wanting to help other people. And that's just sort of beautiful, beautiful thing.